Been too long since I've had Bretonnia on the channel, so here we are, a battle of the flying human tank Griff Lords, Lewin versus Boris. Myself up against my patron Red Running Planner. Once again, let's go through the builds here. Bretonnia in an interesting place right now in the quote-unquote infantry meta, although that's not really a correct name. The cavalry is definitely still very useful. Let's just kind of ignore that for now, and pretend like this build, you know, I built it with that in mind. We've got a couple of gold chevron field trebuchets here for extra accuracy and refire rate. Core of battle pilgrims for the center, with some mobs up front, some halberds to protect only a couple peasant archers, paladin on foot, and since I don't have a ton of targets to heal, damsel, lure of beasts, or that sweet Curse of Honrare and Flock of Doom. On the Empire side, Boris in the air. We've got some Pistoliers over here, a couple of Empire Knights led by a Warrior Priest, Sterling's Revenge, 5 Swordsmen, Grey Wizard, and a Halberd defending the Hammer of Witches there. So I'm going to get started on opening up with trebuchets, using them in an anti-cavalry role at this point. You can see the accuracy does help. They're able to actually land a couple of hits here on these Empire Knights. Whereas, without those chevrons, I really don't think they would have hit anything there. But Battle Pilgrims versus Swordsmen, this is going to be a great engagement for me. Likewise, in the direct comparison between Boris and Lewin, Lewin has more base HP. Boris's regeneration is faster, though, and does not carry any conditions, right? With his Midland Runefang here, 8 hit points per second is the top tier of passive healing, whereas Lewin's Ladies Champion only gives him 4 heals per second and will also deactivate if he routes. He's going to dive in here and get some good damage on those swordsmen. They do beat the peasant mobs, as to be expected. Really nice Penumbral Pendulum here, going to do a ton of value damage onto relatively expensive infantry units, so that is great. So far, though, we're just defending the trebuchet position here. Pistoliers coming in. They're going to work a little bit against these defenders of the fleur-de-lis, who actually have a better missile block chance as one of their Regiment of Renown traits. A lot of people do forget about that, but I'm fine to take those shots on them. Lewin going to catch Boris up in the air. Again, we kind of come back to the comparison of these two. Very similar in terms of stats. Lewin 75 charge, Boris 70 charge. Lewin's got a little bit higher leadership, slightly better attack and defense stats, again slightly more HP, lesser heals. Both have pretty good support abilities. Again, Boris being better passively because they're both non-active, right? They're both passive abilities. He's only got Crush the Weak, no Cloak of Ulrich here, which I would definitely recommend, but also Blood Roar. Lewin, of course, Stand Your Ground and Sword of Corone, which is going to debuff Boris more significantly during that uptime, but Boris's buffs, of course, again, they're passive rather than active, so you don't need to worry about activating them. Saves you a little bit on micro. Anyway, coming back over here, we've got the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis pushing away Empire Knights, trying to get back and get at those Sterling's Revenge as well. The Halberds, meanwhile, just still kind of maintaining a defensive position. Really nice volleys from these Pistoliers, too. And the Warrior Priest also getting in without much Empire Knights to support. He'll still do just fine, dropping some bombardments and some Holy Wrath on these smelly peasants. Men-at-Arms with Bills will be pretty good at dealing with him, so he's going to want to pull away from there, but does have some swordsmen to help screen and perhaps win that fight. Taking a look at the kind of overall battlefield from my perspective here, I've got some routing troops coming back. Got some routing troops coming back over here as well. Still some Pistoliers to deal with. Some of them have quite a bit of ammunition left, and I don't really have a lot of great tools for dealing with them now, especially considering my archers are getting kind of compromised here, and I am mismicroing them. It's a big, kind of wide, classic Cold War battle with just stuff all over the place. Lots to micro for both of us, so there are bound to be some mistakes. But anyway, mouse is freaking out a little bit there. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, Sterling's Revenge is going to do some really nice damage on Lewin here. I was a little late on activating Lion's Shield to, you know, prevent that damage with the extra missile resistance, so he is going to take a face full there. We do get Curse of Honrare to land. Unfortunately, does not actually hit Boris, though. I was a little bit early on the timing, so that's not great. Does hit the Warrior Priest, though, but as he comes down to fight, I'm not too worried about Lewin. Going 2v1 here is not ideal for sure, and the Men-at-Arms with polearms were pressuring those Sterling's Revenge away, but I actually choose to bring them back. Just hammer the Sterling's Revenge with the remaining trebuchets. Managed to beat up that caster pretty effectively, but I probably should chase him off with the Damsel. He may end up coming back from route, but we'll see. Pistoliers, excellent use. Used up all their ammunition. This unit in particular has generated great value. Going to charge in, disrupt the trebuchets. get the crews offline. Funny enough, with the chevrons, these trebuchet crews actually 21 melee attack. They will get some damage on the pistoliers at only 15 melee defense, so it's not going to be necessarily a free trade, but still, Boris ends up doing a ton of damage to Lewin in that combat with the support of his own infantry, and with the warrior priest there, my own kind of other characters a little bit late. And we see the big downside for Lewin with his healing. Again, if he routs, it shuts off. Ladies Champion only has one charge, and it's disabled if leadership is broken. So once Lewin breaks, that's it. It's done. He doesn't get any more healing. Likewise, Blessing of the Lady also, same thing. One-time charge will disable if leadership is broken. So if Lewin routs, it's devastating. He loses physical resistance, he loses regeneration. Beloved Son of Bretonnia is currently active, giving, you know, a map-wide buff to everything on the field while he's still here. Once he's below half HP, Scroll of Shielding also trying to protect him there with that was not enough to keep him in the fight. So despite that, balance of power still in my favor as most of the Empire army is done for. Still got plenty of Battle Pilgrims left, very healthy unit over here, a couple of other units still hanging on over here. The Trebuchet position is getting compromised, which is not great, but the Pistoliers finally getting routed here after having disrupted this entire pocket, so that's not great for me. But the two characters, other characters, the Damsel and the Paladin, both holding out. Paladin being on foot may come back to haunt me here without being able to get him, you know, fast enough to countercharge Boris if he comes to try and take out the Damsel. But Boris playing very patient here. Great job, Red Wedding Planner, of my patron, I have to say. You know, give him a little bit of a shout out, because that's just how it works. He gives me money, right? Anyway, did a great job playing with Boris here, keeping him from taking a like really bad engagement against Lewin, because he probably would lose. It's a little bit of RNG, but actually getting a very good engagement there with the support of the Warrior Priest, breaking Lewin very critically and getting him off the battlefield. Balance power has now come back towards even as the Pistoliers coming in, actually cleaning the defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. Those Halberdiers hanging on for dear life against the Battle Pilgrims. Also got some men-at-arms with polearms here against the Swordsmen, but right in the center, Boris jumps down. Curse of Honor Hair does go off here, but it's not enough. The Paladin still is very likely to get terrified here, and again, can't keep up with Boris. If he had a horse, he would have been able to get a little rear charge there and get a couple of hits in. That would have swung the balance power back in my favor, but as it is, taking a pretty dramatic turn in favor of the Empire, as my character units are starting to waver in their leadership, and they're really kind of what's holding things together at this point. I do have this relatively healthy unit of Battle Pilgrims. With Frenzy active, they're immune to Psychology, but they're not going to hold up to Boris in the late game. It's not that tier of unit. I'm going to try and get these Trebuchets back online. The Paladin makes his final stand, actually doing okay. The Swordsmen are not trading terribly with him, though. Considering their stats, they can get a little bit of a surround. Pistoliers also a few clutch volleys there too. He's only got, what, 85 armor, so that actually does some okay damage if any shots connect. The Pistoliers are going to take some volleys, though, from these Peasant Bowmen. Boris, once again, chasing stuff off and coming all the way back. Really, at this point, just has to come in and finish off the Paladin, and that should be game over for me. Do manage to break the Pistoliers. He comes in for the Archers, goes after the Halberds just to be safe. And then, as soon as he comes close to the Paladin, Paladin gets terrified, or even just breaks, and that's army losses. So there you go. Boris winning today's clash of Flying Griff tank lords that are, you know, second to the theological leader of their faction, let's say. Because with both of these factions, you could say that Enchantress and Volkmar are more competitive picks. But I really like Boris. Probably currently my favorite Empire Lord to actually use. Lewin also a lot of fun, still very strong after all these years. Just gets a little bit outshone by the Enchantress's Mortis Engine effect in the current kind of wide meta. Just because she can hit so many units at once with that and deal such a massive amount of damage. Likewise, her resistances kind of super strong, right? So she actually ends up being much tankier in practice than you might think. Lewin can be very tanky, and a flying terror tank in certain matchups is exactly what you need, considering all your terror units for Bretonnia are pretty expensive and vulnerable. So Lewin being the least vulnerable of those terror units in certain matchups like Beastmen, Greenskins can be super critical. But anyway, Paladin did okay here, actually pays for himself considering how cheap he is on foot. Men-at-Arms with polearms didn't do quite enough at the end of the day. The Battle Pilgrims, though, had a great frontline engagement against those swordsmen, all just netting excellent value. Swordsmen, a few of them were pretty impressive. 500 value there, going after halberds, not too bad. 211 kills against peasant mobs, also pretty impressive. The value, not so much. Yeah, the cannon was tough. I didn't end up generating too much value just because I didn't have a ton of great targets to shoot at. The Pistoliers, on the other hand, had a lot of good targets to shoot at, and they ended up paying dividends. So I have to always, again, point out excellent Pistolier play, especially coming from one of my own. So I really, really enjoyed getting shot to pieces like that. The halberds also supporting nicely, and despite me taking out the Grey Wizard kind of initially pretty early, he did get that Penumbral Pendulum on my infantry that managed to pay out quite a bit of value regardless. Defense of the Fleur-de-Lis don't quite pay for themselves, but as kind of a backline defensive cav, that extra missile block chance, and the decent stats overall. Did they still have Frenzy? They might have actually removed the Frenzy from them. I'd have to go and look, but anyway. Very, very fun game. Awesome matchup between these two factions. Boris, of course, getting a lot of great value. Sterling's Avenge also paying for themselves. Red Wedding Planner says this is currently his favorite unit is Free Company, and Sterling's Avenge has the ROR with the stock, armor piercing, decent stats. As long as they don't take a bad engagement against like a dedicated melee unit or, get multi-bombed, they will pay for themselves, absolutely. Empire Knights also, lots of kill totals, but they kind of just eat a lot of damage, which sometimes that's what they're meant to. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.